So on behalf of CCAD, welcome to Mix 2013. My name is Robert Loss. I'm the programming coordinator for Mix. In your program, you also find a campus map and a complete schedule of the weekend's events. I think that's kind of what this weekend is about. It's about trying something very different, a different way of talking about comics, bringing different groups of people together that maybe don't normally come together. And so think of this weekend as a generator, a free and open occasion for a different kind of dialogue. Let's talk with one another and listen to one another. Thank you all so much for coming and for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you.
Comments as preemptive politics panel. My name is Matt Mitchum. I'm the moderator of the panel. This is the second time Joey and I have talked about politics in public together. I don't know if you remember the first time, but they're made to be printed, copied, distributed, sold. Laura Fanning. And it delves into her background quite a bit, where she came from in Brazil. And I think Morrison's work attempts to suck you in and then beat you into submission.
The term critical oppositionality means art's capability to produce direct social resistance. The philosophical aesthetics of the Frankfurt School, so these are two of the Frankfurt School, there's a lot of them. This is a big mess. They warn against progressive militarization and impending technological devastation. So pyramid, a tank, a sound machine, a cash register.
And I think that goes into breaking the fourth wall. It makes an impactful break.
Then you guys have Matt to thank for the brief digression, usual logo animations and graphics characteristic of commercial VJing, with the goal of creating a unified, live, audio-visual aesthetic experience.
Comics artist, graphic novelist, to live in Columbus for 3 weeks. Techniques from art history, or what would be called like fine art painting,
from its surrounding context, where it lands, can be really exciting.
In public, and kind of putting them out there. These performers were actually quite lovely. They all performed for free and down.
Stuff as much information into the book as possible. Taking the Ohio Penitentiary on the left was raised in 1998.
Bizarre Ways. Published this back in 2007. And so this gives you an idea of just my style when it comes to comics and that kind of stuff, and seeing the differences in the two different cultures and societies. So like discover you're a superhero, so we would, have a lot of fun with it.
It's the kind of thing that one's mind sort of goes through these, really familiar operations where he's looking at me.
So how far can I stretch an image? So just because it's in a gallery space doesn't mean
there's a couple of local printers who will cut people deals. There's still only one national distributor. Columbus supports its art.
great resource we have in this town. Quite a few good comic shops that support a lot of small town.
That was one of the things that they really wanted to do, was support the local community.
Cartoon Library Museum was about 6,800 square feet.
That a lot of the independent comics community has become more dependent on showing at art shows or comic festivals, kind of Midwestern bedrock values and cosmopolitan, kind of matter-of-fact cosmopolitanism.
The three of the most influential comics events happened in Ohio.
The Division of Humanities and Professor of Communication at Washington University. And today,
technology powers almost all digital storefronts of comics major players. The format allowed for independent artists to explore new genres and appeal to a generation whose opinions were counter to that of the mainstream culture. The experience of creating art for a tablet and smartphone will change the way comics are made, who has solved the conundrum of motion comics. Woodward's Bottom of the Ninth manages to remain a comic while still housing sophisticated animation. Some motions going on to work on the page, and then there's also, he will play one video from one panel to the next.
So I'm going to talk essentially about three things today. One is what are mini comics, and in relation to something I've talked about, people weren't self-published. If they were going through a small press publisher drawing quarterly Fantagraphics. Also led to a rise in the number of comic book specialty retailers and giving people larger audience, and we do get things like Hark a Vagrant, which was a web
I
comic.
graduated from the MFA program here last year, and my MFA project was a graphic novel. It's a web comic as well.
So did it start out as a webcomic?
I realized that no one would know about it unless it was on the web, and so
So Jeff, can you speak a little bit about your experiences with self-publishing?
Well, when I started in '91, I was just doing comics the only way you could. Scholastic approached us when kids started reading it, so I'm a publisher. And while I didn't really think of Bone as for kids, I didn't think it was not for kids either. But the good part of it is that now I'm rich now, so that's good. And we have 2 full-time employees. And I work with a colorist, Steve Hammerberg. In the 90s at these shows, like SPX, there was suddenly a show that was big enough that enough people came in, meaning
Comics that maybe you put something together that was professionally printed. If you got a Xeric grant especially, you assemble.
They still need something to sell at a con, because that's really where they're going to make the most amount of their money. So
Not every store is the store that doesn't know who Harvey Pekar was, which, by the way, that made me so sad.
especially right now. The most smart thing I did by accident was as I just started hanging out in the lounge with guys like Rory Root Collection. It says Charles Schultz on the cover. Oh my gosh, I got so much crap, like I was some kind of an ego maniac or something. But she said, I have one condition. You have to write a business plan. It has to be a real business plan that would be good enough to show to a bank. And what that forced me to do of making comics, of selling them in stores, and how's it distributed, how much does it cost to print it, how long will it take before I get money back from Diamond Comics distributors, and start and that kind of stuff. It forced me to be realistic and understand the business. There's comic book conventions, there's subscription services, there's comic book trade journals. Don't forget to try to make a living at this. There is a way to do that. I mean, I see a lot of people online, and I can tell they're doing their comics for the love of the art, and thank God that's what makes them so good. But you don't have to forget that there's money to be made in it, and there is. Americans love comics, and that is what I would suggest to you. Don't wait for anybody's permission. Figure out how to do it, and then do the best damn work of your life.
All right,
And
one
I'm
last. I was going to say one last question, but I think that he just kind of kicked the chair over. So, all right, we're done. Thank you, guys.
Hey, good evening. My name is Robert Loss. I'm a faculty member here at CCAD here in the Liberal Arts Department. Thank you so much for your generosity. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Spurgeon, Jeff Miller.
Two of us have only done 2 interviews, but they were both remarkable in that the last one we're here in Columbus. This feels to me like a very Columbus event. And
If you've lived here for very long, and you've ever been to Hocking Hills, you're going to know that Old Man's Cave is where Bone takes place. Heavy metal or read Lord of the Rings or something, so I'm picturing, what kind of stories and fantasies could go on there. So to me, comics were a place where you could really experience, where I could see some real things being said. Question or thought. You really had to think through.
So long when you finally get it out in the paper, you're the only guy who understands it. So you were
Your
very
hero doesn't know what's going on, and neither do you, and you can only find out when he finds out. First of all, it's a big picture photo, and I love that. I kind of kept the idea of the lines, and then Mark Siegel, who's the publisher for a second, did the same model in Sailor 20. Yeah, that's where it's happening. What more do you want to choose?
All right, good morning, everyone. This is the panel for Issues of Contemporary Comics. My name is Eric Coleman. I'm an assistant professor here at the Columbus College of Art and Design.
The name art represents the characterization of the graphic novel, while Spiegelman denotes the contrast of the image highlights Spiegelman's art style.
It inhabits the body just the main character of the creature. And sort of then into fillers and sends the same killers to kill Jesse. These new ways of thinking. And so there's just
of invisible visibility in the media, whether it's in comics or on the news, involve a fairly standard expositional mode. Mo, Larry, and Curly jump from screen to theater, with David, the autistic character, securely in command.
Elijah Price, comic book collector and lecturers. He also suggests that comic panels fraction both time and space, offering a jagged staccato rhythm of unconvention on the gutter. Notice that she puts text in the gutter. So we have this mother and father who are having a discussion.
And engaging with the audience with any questions and answers. So any of your
Actions to what's being depicted, sometimes the sounds that are being reflected back.
stuff that we do at the same time. Break your guide for X, Y,
You know, y'all having a good time at We're gonna make some noise around here. I'm a local comic book creator. My name is Victor Gaines, and I've seen, as I was telling Dr. Gales earlier, I feel like I have a connection with the Flying Baby.
That conversation, your work as an artist, the work of people like John and Stacy here at Black Kirby, brilliant work, the work. You know, and I loved Luke Cage growing up, and as I shared with you initially, I was brought up with the idea of black masculine blindness. I wanted to identify with some black male superhero so much that I ignored all of the noise around the kinds of
activities would remember that the guy was shooting lightning bolts out of his eyes.
I bought it and I read it, and I think I really think I've tried to push it into my subconscious.
Entered into a partnership for them to publish Black Lightning comics and other material.
That was one of Mike's particular goals, was to showcase a black superhero. I agree.
The lack of diversity just doesn't reflect reality.
Right.
The challenge is that comic books represent this fantastic space where people feel that they should be able to do whatever they want to do.
There is a whole lot of us here. Laura suggested that we actually start meeting on a monthly basis, Autobio Comics, and that's what I'm writing.
Well, I'm Meg Siverud. I'm a graphic designer actually, and I work full-time at a radio station in Gahanna.
Years now, and I did an autobiographical webcomic called Next Year's Girl for 2 years, which I collected into print and released this March.
Audience has been very receptive to what I'm trying to say, so I've been featured in Mary Claire, and hopefully with inspiration from women like these, I can go on and do more cool stuff
About him, and that puzzled me even at the age of like 6 or 7. I couldn't figure out why she was doing that. That was my first experience with comic books, and I think that
being an archivist and being a librarian, because I was very much into putting them in order and the sleeves in the books.
To that. I could not relate to people in capes.
see a lot of different new creators coming in. So like right now, I think it's sort of because he writes flaws into his characters, and I think there are so many characters, and maybe even particularly female characters, because
There's so many great artists out there. Code 4. So many great guys.
About my experience walking on the street every day, and I was feeling really frustrated about it. I was single for a long time. The popular high school girl said that she liked my work, so I made it. I'm done.
Getting that affirmation is a really good feeling. I think sometimes it's a part of why we do it. Of course, we all feel this need to express ourselves and tell our stories and make statements about things we feel are important. But
So I think that it's not so much a gender issue, it's just the preferences we have, and that so informs what we choose to write about.
Suffering and not the being. So that's why the first book is called Good and Decent Man, and I kind of set it up. People. You can be, that needs to be talked about. It can be talked about. And yesterday, this is what I love about these books. She had served 2 tours in Iraq and came up to me afterwards and told me that. And we both just started crying. Because she says, I have closure extras. And I'm like, I hear you.